We're just about at the halfway mark of the 2026 Canadian Premier League season. Wheeler, Wilson, AGR with you. They're my favorite teachers. Sometimes they grade difficult, like on a daily basis for my very own performance. Sometimes they're really nice when other people like Mackenzie Barwell or Adam Jenkins are hosting this show. Mid-season grades. It's been a weird CPL season. Let's acknowledge that just because of the World Cup break. There was a pronounced first half of the season. Now we're just reaching that 14-game mark. So let's go club to club and dish out some grades. Let's start off with 8th place Pacific FC. Just 3 points. Haven't had a win on the campaign. They've just named Terry Dunfield as their new manager. Although the team, let's be fair, in recent games has looked a lot better. They just haven't been able to come up with results in recent games as well. AGR, we'll start with you on the West Coast. What grade are you giving Pacific? I know it's a tough one to start off with, but Pacific, your grade for them at the midway mark.
Well, for here, I might have to pull out something that we have here, especially in BC, that you sometimes get when you don't always hand in all of your work and you're at the halfway point. It's kind of a warning shot from the teacher. It's the famed I, the I for incomplete, because it feels like that's what Pacific season's been. It feels like giving them an F is probably the fair assessment if we're going for end of year grades. But up to this point, like, what a strange season it's been. Terry Dunfield coming in, James Merriman leaving partway. Just feels like the squad, hasn't been living up to the potential. Funnily enough, they haven't actually been that horrible. Like, their underlying numbers don't suggest that they should be on pace to have by far the worst season in CPL history. So it's something where at the halfway point, you have to grade what you see in it, and it's not been good. But it definitely feels like if Terry Dunfield comes in, brings a little structure, brings a little vibe, gets things back on track, they shouldn't be this bad. So I might have to pull out the famed I, but if I'm based on what I've seen, it's something around an F or maybe a C- if I'm being really generous.
Yeah, no chance. No world is at a C-. Look, Pacific FC had some new players, quality players that are coming in as well, just haven't gelled and the cohesion hasn't been there. Just a D-, F, or incomplete. I'll give you that. There is no world where I could give this a C-. We're halfway through the season, you haven't won a game. Like, I'm sorry, in a league that is very close. Yeah, of course, there are juggernauts that are usually Forge and Cavalry. There's probably always two teams that are just consistent, playing great football week in and week out. But from 3 to 7, even you see in this year as well, none of us could sit here right now and feel confident about who's going to finish 3rd or 4th or who's going to be outside of playoffs. There's no reason that we should have one team way off of it and haven't won a game. Like, no chance. And I get it. There's been obviously James Merriman being in the side and then leaving, and then Terry Dunfield took the side but didn't really coach the side because of World Cup and all that was happening as well. So that was a bit, the players on the pitch, like, just been so dreadful from a defensive perspective. And I get it. There might be some players in that locker room that just say, look, let's get this over the line for today. Let's park the bus. Let's do what we need to do, play a little bit of a different role. The fact that they haven't won, I can't give them anything past a D-. Like, it's D- F.
You can't even give them a D because there's been none. There's been no D, no defense. The defending has been absolutely dreadful. I'll give them a TD, not just for Terry Dunfield, but THUD. Thud. It's just being completely rock bottom for Pacific. In 7th place, it's Inter Toronto. The season started off well, and over the last 6 games, they picked up 1 solitary point. They sit in 7th place. Jordan, what grade are you giving Inter Toronto?
Right now, it's a D+. And the reason why I say that was a C- before they took on Forge. But I was looking at that game as a barometer, a game to show that you care, a game to give your fans something. Maybe I'm looking too hard at it because I'm a former York United player and I really want the club to do well. And what I mean by well, you don't have to go out and win the Canadian Premier League. You don't have to go and win the Shield. But you have to do well consistently throughout the season and get the club to a place they've never been. 3rd place, hosting a playoff game and doing well, going beyond semifinal. And doing well, winning that, maybe going to a final. Give the fans who have been there through all the changes of York 9 to York United to Inter Toronto, give them something to cheer about. And right now, they don't look like they're playing for each other. They don't look like they're playing for their manager, and they're not locked in. And I could say this, and I could say this to anyone in their faces as well. Because one thing, I wasn't a perfect player when I played. You can see a lot of low lights and penalties and all that given away, but you got to be committed. That's what you're paid to go and do. And people are committed to jobs they don't like. You get to play football. A lot of these guys football at home in their backyard. It's a coveted job. At the very least, it should be blood, sweat, and tears every week. And the fact that that's not there, and the fact that I'm seeing guys let another player walk by them, score a goal, and they're just looking down at their boots, D plus. And it's going and trending in the wrong direction. Let's see what they can do this weekend as well.
So you're generous. I think I'm going straight to D minus. Like for me, it's in F feels harsh, but I'm gonna go D minus because it's all about expectations too. Heading into the year, like you could tell me Toronto was pushing for top 2 and I'd buy it. They have the squad, they have the coaching, they have the pieces. So to be 7th, to have 3 wins at the halfway point, they are safe because obviously they have some games in hand and the table is close. So couple good weeks, we'll be laughing. Okay, maybe they're pushing for a playoff spot. But like you mentioned, the trend, 20 goals conceded in the last 6 games. It's not like they have a bad backline. That's why, if anything, I'll be harsher on them than a Pacific. If you polled most of us before the season, we would have said Pacific are right where we expected them to be. Toronto has been a big disappointment. So no, I have to give a D minus, and I think there's going to be a lot of pressure because they have the runway with those games in hand. They really got to turn things around fast, whether that's you need a signing, you need some sort of jolt, a formation change, but something's got to give.
I agree with both of you. I was one of those backing Inter Toronto, and now they're making me look foolish. I can do that on my own without any help. Thank you very much. It's not easy for expansion teams to come into a new league and easily find their way. We've seen some good, some bad, and everything in the middle from FC Supra de Quebec. They're in 6th place where we stand. AGR, what grade do you give them?
Yeah, I feel like somewhere along a B plus, because at the end of the day, it's always tough to be a new team. There's just a lot that you can't understand, I guess, until you live through it, of the travel realities, the toll of playing all the time, etc. And I don't think we should get too caught up on the fact that they started so well and maybe showed a bit of their potential, which maybe makes this run feel a little worse than it is because you're thinking, okay, they can play better than this. But overall, for them to be in the playoff mix in the first year, for Sean Rea to play the way he's played, I'm very happy with where this Supra team's at. And I think they can look at the second half of the season and think, why not push for a playoff spot? Because a lot of the teams around them are flawed, have certain weaknesses. So I think Supra can be very happy with year one, especially when you compare how past year ones went for other expansion teams in the CPL, which serves as a reminder of how hard it can be to be a new side.
14 points in 13 matches played, and probably only were off it twice this year. The last one being against Vancouver FC, where they got smashed, which is going to happen from time to time. But you're right, 4 wins. And I even look at yesterday, the match I called with Adam Jenkins, Cavalry hosting Supra, who just played on Friday and had to travel as well and go over there. I almost had them, right? And had them and kept them and got a point at Spruce Meadows. It was a difficult place to go and play, but Amir did just kind of stole the show and just showed his quality towards the end. But what I like about Supra and why I'm giving them a B minus is that they have a clear identity. They play patient football. They've pretty much stuck to the same core, but still implementing new players coming in, which is like crucial. The fact that they've kept the whole Quebec sentiment and players that have a real pull to that province, that either grew up there or were born there or both. So that's why I'm going to give them a B plus. They've hit so many of these things on the head out the bat year one that you got to give them that type of grade. Now is, can you really make a push? Also, when you factor in Can Champs and being in a semifinal too, you got to show them some love with what they're doing in the first couple of months of their existence.
B plus, B minus. Wow. Look, they just need some depth. They have some core players that they've found. Give them a C plus. Their communication has been very good. They're having a mid-season press conference just to kind of talk things over. I really like that. They've done some really good things in Montreal to start their life in CPL. All right, the top 4. Fifth place. Let's not forget about 5th place. Halifax Wanderers. The Vanni Sartini era has begun, and it's been a little bit rocky over the course of these opening months. Jordan, what grade are you giving the Wanderers?
C plus. The reason being, I just really thought with Vanni Sartini, I understand that's not how football works. You don't just snap your fingers and things work themselves out and get better. But I really thought they would be in a different position in terms of competing at the top. Not saying being the best, but definitely working and rocking in that direction. The fact that they're 4-7 with 7 losses, with all due respect, this is not a slate on your boy Wheels, my boy, but Patrice Geyser, but this is Patrice Geyser record. Matches played 15, points 16. Halifax Wanderers have been starved for championships, for getting to that promised land, to be in tournaments. The fact that they're out of Can champ, the fact that right now they're 5th, I couldn't put them higher than a C+. A C+ for me is a grade on the curve, because the chances that they have, specifically, let's go back to last Friday against Supra, being up 2-0, and then you lose a match 3-2. That's old Halifax Wanderers, like back when I used to play, where they just would capitulate, right? You can't be doing that. Not with this team, not with this leadership, not with the players that they have within the group. So right now it's C+. They can get a couple wins and really get that grade up, but right now on the curve, can't go higher than a C+.
Yeah, I'd probably go somewhere around C+C. Like, it feels like this team has not punched up to its weight, and I think that Supra result encapsulates it so perfectly of how it's felt watching this team, because this Wanderers team has had good moments, but it feels like for whatever reason all season they've been searching for balance. At the beginning of the year they could not score to save their life, but then all of a sudden lately they can score now, like Isaiah Johnston, Miguel Aria, Tavio Ciccarelli. There's something there, but now they can't defend, and obviously TMG was out and he's back and he can help fix things, but there should be no reason for a team with, to be honest, TMG, Lorenzo Caligari, Isaiah Johnston, those are 3 of the best players in the league. Whenever a team has 3 good players like that, an experienced coach like Vanni Sartini, you should not be struggling defensively. You should not be having moments where you just fall apart in games. So I think for the Wanderers, there's glimpses, but there's not been enough for a team that I think should be pushing a bit higher up the table.
For 4th place Vancouver FC, the Eagles are flying. They're one of the informed sides in all of the Canadian Premier League. And after a frustrating start where they simply couldn't score, they've now found their wings and they've started to fly. AGR, what grade do you give Martin Nash and company?
I think I'm going to go A-. I think the fact that they've showed their true level lately, 5 of their last 6 they've won in CPL play, 4 straight wins at home in CPL play is obviously huge. In the Can Champ, they pushed CF Montreal and probably should have gotten more out of that game, but finishing again, that seems to be the issue when they lose. But what's nice about this Vancouver team is they have a clear identity. They're fun to watch. This is the sort of team they wanted to be from the start, and they just weren't. So the fact that Martin Nash has come in and turned things around this quickly from last year to this year, you look across the board, it's a solid squad. Like, I think Vancouver's in a really good place when you look at compared to the other teams. Their underlying numbers are fantastic. Yeah. Like, if you're going to bet on that, the teams 3-7, they're probably my number 1 pick to lock in one of those spots, just because they have fewer flaws. Like, their flaws finishing, I'll take that over some of the other flaws where some teams can't defend, some teams don't really have a clear structure. Vancouver has a clear structure. They've got a good team, and now they figured out how to score. Like, it's been fun to watch.
They're putting the pieces together. Absolutely, they are. Credit to Martin Nash, Dasovic, like John Sopoulos, the players that are there, everyone on their coaching staff, because they've kind of bid their time, right? But let's look at it from a points perspective and why I'm giving them an A-. Last year, you know how many points they finished with at the end of the season? 21. 21 points. No. The best they've ever gotten was, I think, in 2024 at 30. 2025, 29 points. They have 20 right now. And they're trending in the right direction, where you're feeling like there's certain matches on your calendar, you're looking at them being like, oh, they can take that team. They certainly believe that. You're listening to Tierno Ba at the win against Cavalry. Yes, Cavalry were a man down. Yes, there's things you can go into, but this is also football. For them to go and score, go and protect their lead and get 3 points at home, that's unheard of. For them to have 20 points halfway through the season, unheard of. Scoring goals, different goal scorers, top goal scorers, threats on their team that also come off the bench and they're interchangeable. You got to give them an A-. They're playing top football right now, and they have the momentum.
Just go on and give them an A. Well, why have the minus? They're good to watch. They're good to watch as well.
But the start for me, I maybe took them a couple games too long to kind of flip into gear, but I respect the squad and I really value what they're doing.
A for Amisi. He's been a great addition to that team as well. Atletico Ottawa, what a weird start to the season. Starting off with the CONCACAF Champions Cup, a really difficult start. Then their manager leaves and they bring in a new manager and they look like a real force, a really interesting team for the remainder of the season. And they find themselves in third place all of a sudden. Jordan, Atletico Ottawa, what do you make of this roller coaster start and what grade do you give them?
A minus. They have 5 losses. A team that I know it's different because last year they played the football and that they never lost at home. They were dangerous on the road. They were near complete squad. But the 5 losses so early in the season, A minus. I do like their football. I do believe in Gustavo Leal in terms of having an identity and winning over his players, which is important. And they've done enough to kind of turn things around. They look bleak and dire in the beginning of the season. Hence why I'm going A minus. But decent side. I would say they're the third best side, not just in the league and the table, but how they played their football so far this year.
Yeah, I'm close to there. I'm B plus, but it's like a soft B plus. Like I lean somewhere between a B plus, because at the end of the day, though, there's still the defending champions, and while they lost a lot, and I think that's where I give them a bit of leniency. You lose Sam Salter, you lose David Rodriguez, you lose Nathan Ingham. Like those are pillars of your team that are hard to replace. The recruitment just wasn't nowhere near good enough to replace those guys. And I think that's been a bit of a surprise. And then you also add in that some guys who are still there, like this team still has Imani Aparicio, who they maybe haven't gotten the most out of the way that Diego Mejia did last year. I think this Ottawa team can click a bit more. But then now we see with Gustavo Leal coming in and bringing a bit of new life, maybe that's what this team needed. It's hard to defend championships, especially when you lose so many key pieces. So I'll go B plus just because I think Ottawa can turn around. I mean, if them being in a not so good position is third, I think most teams in the league would snap their hands off at it. So I think Ottawa can be very confident with what the second half can look like.
Yeah, I like their trajectory. Just the fact they've gone like this a little bit, like me doing the worm on the dance floor, makes it very difficult to project where they're going to end up. But certainly intriguing stuff in our nation's capital. Second, the bridesmaid is Cavalry at present time. A little bit of a gap between they and top of the table Forge. But what about the Cavs? I mean, they went about their business, did some good business in the offseason, looked like a really strong attacking side, really solid in certain areas, but still only second place. I mean, it seems like an achievement, AGR, but they're expected to be toe-to-toe, eye-to-eye with Forge, aren't they? So what grade do you give them?
Well, I think as a teacher, you can't grade someone based on how their peers are doing, right? Sometimes that's not always fair to what the team's doing.
Professor Cavalry's AGR,
on pace. Cavalry's on pace for 60 points. Like it's a pretty darn good season, all things considered. It's just Forge has been essentially invincible and impossible to beat. So I think Cavalry can be very happy with where they are. From a macro or a micro perspective. The reality is, though, they don't care about that. They want to win the league. They want to go toe to toe with Forge. But the fact is that they're on pace for 60 points. They've only lost 2 games. They've really had some top performances. The Cavalry's in a great place, and I think they'll push Forge over the second. But that's why I give an A instead of an A plus. Like if Forge wasn't doing what they're doing, people would be looking at this Cavalry team as one that's pushing and putting one of the best seasons. It's just Forge is so far arguably put up the best half season we've ever seen in the Canadian Premier League.
Yeah, they get an A from me. And I think the reason being, outside of what AGR just mentioned, is the fact that they're doing this early, right? We've watched Cavalry. We've watched them year in and year out. I've played against them as well. You don't want to play Cavalry in September, October, November. You don't want to play them then, right? It's this time where they usually struggle right into the summer, but they've been playing well. And even things, there's little intangibles, even things like last night, years gone by, they tied that game yesterday. But Didic, the players that they've acquired, Musi putting in the service, Didic going up, Holiday standing on his head, making a great save last night. Shout out to the young kid from Edmonton. But yeah, you got to give them an A because they're playing good football. But AGR's right. There's just that team in front of them that kind of makes what they're doing and the accolades and all that they're achieving and how the chemistry is right look like it's second best to some degree. And that's not fair on them, but I give them an A. And only three draws that they have? Like that's still really, really good this early in the season.
All right, finally, it's first place Forge. Eye roll from the rest of the Canadian Premier League. Here we go again, but this Forge team they've lost once all season, and they're winning games even when they're not at their best. In fact, Bobby Simeoniotis says they're only playing about 60 to 70% of their potential. And oh, by the way, eyeball emoji, they signed Levante Johnson today as well, with other signings to come. They're fit. They're firing. I don't know how you don't give them an A+, and I'm not even trying to be an easy marker here. It just seems like once again this year, they could be historically good, Jordan Wilson.
11-1-1 is their record. Played obviously 13 matches. 23 goals for, 8 against. By the way, that's what Cavalry have as well, 8 goals against. But come on. 34 points, it's tidy from them. It has to be an A+. That's the standard, right? They're getting their business done. They're scoring some goals, but they're not even playing to their full capabilities. They're adding certain players. Johnson is going to hit the ground running and be implemented into the side and integrated into the side slowly but surely. But yeah, A+ for Forge. And people hate it around the league, but I'm sorry, find a team that's better. Find a team that does better for 28 games. This is going to be the third year in a row where they've just been clean and tidy throughout the 28 games, which is not an easy thing to do.
They're on pace for 70 points. Like it's ridiculous to put it out like that. And like this is a team that they lost Achinori Janssen. Kyle Becker didn't start the season. They lost Yasim Kolelit, which some people felt like was a big loss. Jabapour, a huge rock in the midfield. Like they lost some big pieces. This is supposed to be a transition year. Like there's some Forge teams on paper, I think, heading into the year, people had higher expectations for them to be on pace for 70 points. And based on the way things are, they might just sleepwalk to a Can Champ final, by the way, where if they do that and maybe you go and somehow pull that trophy out, I think we're going to run out of grades, right? Is there anything higher than an A+ you can give? So I think A+ is very, very fair right now. And Forge is set up to do something very special. Obviously, it's a long season and lots can change. Can Champ, no guarantees. The league form can dip, but man, like the start to the season's been perfect. And I think the fact that Bobby Simeoniotis is sitting there thinking, man, like his team has another gear to hit, like watch out.
All right. Thanks for joining us at our One Soccer Summer School. Get in the comments and give your grades to each and every one of the Canadian Premier League teams. And we'll see if you grade as hard or as easy as these guys right here.